Wednesday again here in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital of the United States of America, and it's DeFi time. Let's take a look at the usual suspects here, starting with Bitcoin dominance, one of the favorites among both Bitcoiners and altcoiners, and people who call themselves Bitcoiners and don't understand Bitcoin dominance. Because in general, most of the denominator here on Bitcoin dominance is all garbage, fake supply. But if we take that aside, take that caveat, put it in a box, even still looking at this, it's pretty clear that Bitcoin has been outperforming almost everything over the past few weeks. In general, if Bitcoin dominance has been above the 200-day moving average, this red fill, then Bitcoin has outperformed altcoins, just period. Not only that, but we're getting a golden cross on the Bitcoin dominance if you want to TA that even further, which maybe not be the best thing to do, but historically, golden crosses, the few that have existed, have lasted for quite some time. Last week I did mention the DeFi Perp Index as well on FTX. This is the 6-hour chart. Was talking about a potential falling wedge with a bullish divergence on both RSI and volume. You're getting lower lows in price on less momentum. Divergences like this can last for quite some time, but eventually the chart pattern, the falling wedge, typically breaks up. It's typically a reversal. So even though the divergence can keep going, typically the pattern figures itself out pretty quick. And it did. You get the reversal, you get the huge volume spike, and now everything's sort of back to the previous range. So at this point, for me, looking at this price action on the left side here, I would expect continued ranging mode in this zone, just as an index. I wouldn't expect massive continuation here. Typically how it works is if there's resistance on the previous side, the left side of the chart, the same zone is going to take some time to pop back up again because all these people who are still holding, who are underwater, are now trying to sell. And if you got people from higher who are thinking, okay, it's up a little bit, I should sell. And eventually that reaches an equilibrium. And if there are more buyers and sellers, price goes up. But until then, I think it's going to take some time. Generally, that's how those things work. Starting off with Link USD, one of the strongest, most resilient DeFi coins, if you can even call it that. I think it's just like lumped in to the DeFi coins. It's kind of too mature to be a DeFi coin in my mind. But nonetheless, it is listed amongst them. And we've got the 200-day moving average as well as the pitchfork. And together, these have been extremely powerful at showing support and resistance. Anytime price has gotten close to the edges of this pitchfork, it has either bounced or sold off. And price wants to live in the median of the pitchfork, this yellow line. So as long as the price holds within the confines of the pitchfork, bullish continuation is expected indefinitely. Nothing really to say about RSI, nothing really to say about price action either. I mean, it's kind of just heavy ranging here. But it's above the 200. It's just at the median line of the pitchfork. Based on what the other DeFi coins have done over the past few weeks, I mean, you got to be happy with Link in that it's sort of held its price, whereas the other DeFi stuff I'm going to show you has dropped like 80 to 90% over the past few months, and then just this week decided to bounce 10% of that, probably back 10 to 20% of that. If we look at AAVE, for example, this is AAVE USDT on Binance. On the 1-hour chart, you can see that there was a breath of life into this. I don't know if this is algo driven or just herd mentality. I mean this in a nice way, but the DeFi traders, I'd say, are the most herd susceptible. So if they get a whiff of something, long or short, it just goes bananas super quickly. So this is over the course of 6 days, and it just went mega moon territory. Popping the cloud on here, you can see that the trade setup is pretty much over as far as the long trade. The long is from the Kumo breakout to the TK cross or cloud re-entry. So this trade should chill out over the next few hours, over the next few days. A bit surprising that it busted through all of this volume rather quickly. Not a usual picture, I don't think. Again, another reason why I feel safer to say that this is very herd driven, either poor liquidity, poor trading access. There's something up about AAVE here that isn't normal. You don't get a essentially 3x in 6 days. That's not exactly normal price action. But hey, it is what it is. If you made money on it, congrats. Looking at UNI USD on the 2-hour on Binance. I'm slowly starting to finally work my way up these timeframes for some of this stuff because there's finally enough price history. So last week I was talking about how this was just down in the dumps and it didn't look like a buy. And unless you're really following this day to day, you're not going to really see the bounce stuff. You know, me looking at it once a week on the 2-hour time frame, a lot can happen between then and a week from now. But it's back within the VPVR confines, previous consolidation. You can see that these parabolic declines can only last so long, as the same with parabolic advances. Here's another parabolic decline here. So if you were just drawing a curve on this and seeing, oh, this is obviously breaking that curve rather dramatically, I mean, that's a pretty good sign. Obviously, this is hindsight, whatever, I don't care, but I'm just saying that's what you're looking for on parabolic declines or advances. Then if you even weren't sure on that, you could say, all right, it's above the cloud now on the 2-hour. I'm fairly confident that I can use that as a signal, whatever. So at this point, you are getting a bearish divergence into arguably resistance here on VPVR. So I don't know how much further this goes. It probably wants to revisit 250, 260 at some point, this flat Kumo. If I ever miss trades like this, I'm always more comfortable to just wait, sit it out, let it reconsolidate, let it test support again. Don't rush it, especially if it's on the 2-hour. This might look completely different 2 days from now. Still much more bullish than it was last week. Looking at SNX, finally got the bounce, had the fake out, breakout below the 200, broke the lower lows on the falling wedge, broke the RSI trend, and then bounced. So chalk one up for the random walk people who say TA is garbage, because here, this is a tough one for TA. It didn't bounce on the 200. I guess it bounced on the support, the monthly pivot support, but other than that, it's kind of a mess. But looking at the potential for upside here, measuring the 1618 to the measured move of this range, we get 10.5 to 12.5 basically. So that's completely possible within the next couple months. But this does look strong. It does look like it's attempting to reconsolidate, reestablish bullish continuation. So I still think this chart looks among the best of all the DeFi coins. Looking at UMA on the 2-hour Binance chart, again, it's got all of this upside VPVR resistance, as would any chart that has just sold off continuously. And again, you can see this parabolic decline, breaking it, boom. Parabolic decline, breaking it, boom. So the EMAs look good for the first time ever. It's sitting at monthly pivot resistance right now. The next pivot up is around 1150, but it's got to contend with all this VPVR congestion. For me, this is a wait and see. Definitely less bearish than it was last week, so it definitely looks better. But historically, this has popped up and sold off every time. So if I was trading this, I would wait, sit that one out for now. Wi-Fi, man, just drama with this coin. Wi-Fi, Y squeeze, borrowing, lending. If we look at the tech, though, the tech told us this was a head and shoulders. It was a descending triangle. We get our 1618, we get our measured move, and boom, it nestled nicely into that with a bullish divergence, just as the Y squeeze people came on board. Kind of interesting how that worked out. In the despair mode, the bands, the hordes of DeFi people got together and decided to short squeeze the whales. So now it's back into this previous descending triangle consolidation. Tons of volume here. I'd expect 13 to 13.8 to be relatively strong support here. There is definitely a bearish divergence now. So I think this needs some time, but it's traded so technically that the next setup should also look fairly obvious. On the 4-hour here, these patterns have looked great. These divs have looked great. So I don't expect it to just randomly do some things that you wouldn't be able to catch if watching this on the 4-hour, just on a day-to-day basis. But it's going to definitely relax now. The Y squeeze people probably are done. I'd imagine. I haven't really followed it over the past couple days, but something to look up. What are they doing? Are they still Y squeezing the short or what? Looking at comp, I think 2 weeks ago I said that it's above the cloud for the first time since August. It started to look good. Couldn't break above the 200 on the 4-hour. So now it's above the cloud and above the 200 on the 4-hour, and it's going to get a 5200 cross over the next day or two. It's above VPVR resistance, so I do like comp to like 134 maybe, whatever this VPVR notch is here. It's probably close to 50% retracement of the down move here. So it's definitely worth a punt, as they say across the pond. You could also argue a multi-shouldered head and shoulders if the neckline is somewhere around 115. Shoulder, shoulder, head. You might get 2 more higher lows and then a blast off from 115 directly to 136. So those are the types of things I'd be watching for. If I was trading this, I would probably start accumulating it with the expectation that it won't break below 95 dramatically, based on maybe 92, based on the shoulder, let's say. But trend-wise, it looks pretty good. Looking at Ren, Garbly Mess, still fairly bullish. It's less of a garbled mess than Link. This is clearly just sideways, right? Like, you could draw some sort of triangle here, equilateral triangle, hope for upside, bullish continuation. I don't think there's a convincing argument one way or the other here, other than it's above the 50 and 200. Did have a nice like W AAVE situation here on low time frames, but on the 12-hour, I just think it's there's no real setup, no real trade here. Looking at Serum bounced as well, like everything else. One thing, if you're trading a sector like DeFi, and one of them doesn't bounce, there's usually rotation very quickly to that coin. So if you're looking at the list and seeing a couple that I'm not mentioning that perhaps haven't bounced yet, there are definitely going to be people who just take that trade blindly because they assume it's going to bounce, even though there might be some fundamental reasons why it's not bouncing. But nevertheless, Serum is $1.12. It's got, again, tons of upside resistance here. It's hard to be equally as bullish as it was bearish on the way down. Again, you're getting a massive bearish divergence here. So I think all this stuff needs to relax, go sideways, and then make a decision from there. Band. Talked about Band 2 or 3 weeks ago in that there was a potential inverted head and shoulders on lower time frames. This is the 12-hour. It's setting up for a potential mega head and shoulders into 2021. Again, it's this like multi-shouldered head and shoulders situation. So I'd expect this to be strong resistance, bounce down to somewhere around 480, $5, whatever this is, and then retest those highs at like 7. So the trade would be from like 7 to 10 as far as expectations. You could even just wait for the 50 and the 200 on the 12-hour to cross bullish again. My guess is all this will happen together. You're going to get this bullish cross. Volume's going to pick way up. It's going to break 7. It's going to break the yearly pivot, or the monthly pivot. All that should happen around the same time. And I really like how the volume just like grinded to nothing, even though it's completely just super volatile here on no volume. So I kind of like that as far as a consolidation setup. And this even did have a bullish divergence at the bottom. Really nice spike down on less momentum. So a bit of a wait and see, but definitely a decent setup in the works there for Band. Dot, sideways mess. I mean, hopefully most people see this and they just say, all right, I'm just going to trade something else, right? Because it's the VPVR tells you it's been ranging from 380 to 450. Price action tells you it's just been trendless, nothingness here. This doesn't mean you can't go to 25 tomorrow, but as it sits now on the 4-hour, it just doesn't have a drive one way or the other. And this has all sorts of fundamental baggage with VCs and coin schedules and all sorts of fun stuff. Lastly, Sushi, again, much like Serum, it's got a bearish divergence. It's got a higher high in price, lower high in RSI, despite the first ever 2-hour 50-200 bull cross. It's got tons of volume here from the massive grind down it had. So again, for me, this is just a wait and see. This could be the beginning of something great. This could just be sideways for a couple days. It's a decent spot to start accumulating if you are comfortable with the fundamentals of Sushi and or just think people are done selling. But I suspect people will continue selling. And there's one of these, I think it's Uni or Comp. One of them, the mining rewards end soon. So it'll be interesting once that happens how price will react. Hopefully this was useful, helpful. Let me know what you think in the comments. Like, subscribe, share. Happy trading.